Welcome to another Stamp with Cynthia video. Today I'd like to show you how to make a card in a box. And of course, these card in a boxes have been all over the internet lately. They're wonderful because they fold up into a nice flat package. You can see the one that we're going to be making fits very nicely and very neatly into a standard Stampin' Up! Envelope. And of course, it opens up into this beautiful display. Of course, you can also make them like this one with a birthday theme. And this one has balloons and candles, and you can make them with flowers, butterflies, whatever you want. But the card in a box is actually very easy. Let's get started, shall we? First thing you want for your card in a box is your piece of cardstock. I've cut my standard piece of cardstock 8.5 by 11. I've kept the 8.5. This way it's 9 inches, so I've cut it to 9 inches. Okay, bring in my scoring tray, bring in my scoring board. I'm going to score this at 2 1/8, 4 1/4, 6 3/8, and 8.5. I now have those scores. Turn it once, score it again at 2 3/4. Now I'm going to take this piece. I've got all my scores, and I want it to be 5.5 inches because remember, 5.5 inches fits inside of a standard Stampin' Up! Envelope. So I'm going to cut this down to, there's my 5.5 mark, using my stamping trimmer, and cut that at 5.5. This piece I'm going to save for later. You'll see that you end up with this piece that's 9 inches long. It has 4 large quadrants, and then you have just one thin tab along the edge that's separated by the center score line. I want to cut 1/2 of that tab off, so I'm just going to cut it with my scissors. The other thing I like to do is just to bevel the edge on this just a little bit. It makes it easier to fold the box afterwards. Okay, so now I have this tab. Okay, now that I have this piece, I'm going to take the spot where I write my greeting. On a card in a box, you usually write the greeting on the back, so I want this white panel on the back for me to write on. And I'm going to put that on now. I'm going to glue it on this. I've got my small tab on this side. I'm going to glue this on the other side, and that's going to remind me not to fold this one so that this one remains rigid. I want all of the other panels to be floppy, but I want this back one to be rigid. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this on now to remind me not to fold that one. Okay, here I am. This is glued on. Now what you do is you just follow your score lines, and you cut up each of these quadrants just to the middle. Okay, just to that middle score line. And you can see I've got my tab that I cut out here. These are all cut, and that's when you can take this and do all of your folding. And remember, I've got this panel here, so I know not to score that one. And in addition, I'm going to do all of these scores, make it nice and easy to fold afterwards. Okay, and then what you do with this panel, I want to adhere this so I have my box. Okay, so what I'm going to do, the easiest way is to fold that down like that, hold it there, close this over like that, and voila, I have the beginnings of my card in a box. And at this stage, of course, you can see that it folds in either direction. Okay, and it fits quite nicely inside of one of our standard envelopes. Okay, as long as I remember not to have anything above the top of my card in a box, it will fit quite nicely into our envelope. At this stage, you can add your decorations to your panels. You can add designer paper. You can go ahead and stamp on these directly. Let's see, if you just add designer paper, you can stamp. That's a quick way of decorating your card in a box. Now remember, I told you that we had this piece that we were going to keep. This was a piece we cut off, and it's got our thin tab on this side and then several folds. starting from this tab, I want to cut a piece that is 3 1/8 inches wide. So my small tab is here. I'm at my 3 1/8 inch. Cut that, and now I have a piece like this. I'm just going to cut this quickly in half. I'm not too concerned about measuring it. And then I'm going to fold these in opposite directions. Okay, so I have that one is like a Z fold. Of course, in the States you say Z, in Canada we say Z. Same thing, Z, Z. You understand what I mean. Now I want both of these to be in the same direction. I'll put something dark under here so you can see it. I want both of these to be in the same direction so that I've got both of these are in the same direction. Do you see what I mean by that? Okay. Next, I'm going to put sticky strip on those. So I end up with these with the sticky strip on them. What I want to do is I want to get this inside my box, and I'm going to fold these over completely, put it down inside my box so fairly evenly. I don't want it at an angle. I want it to be straight across, but I'm going to put it in all the way down, and then I will let go of one side, fold the sticky strip over, let go of the other side, fold the panel over, so that it should be pretty much even. I don't want it higher than the lip of my box. I don't want it down too low either, because this is the bridge that my pop-up pieces are going to stick to. So I'd like it to be fairly even, I think, with the top of the box. Okay, fairly even with the top of the box. Not higher, but not really too low either. And I do want it flush across. So I'll remove my little pieces of protective layer. Remember, the easiest thing to do is to fold these both flat, completely flat, push it down inside my box, get it so that it's parallel, it's not on a diagonal, release one side, okay, once it's down, oops, it's stuck to my finger, release the other side, okay. You can see how it more or less goes straight across. I'm going to do the same with the other panel. Now with this one, my tab is sticking forwards here to the back here. I want this one to go in the exact same direction. This tab sticks forward, so this one will go forward. This tab is facing the back, so I'm going to have this tab facing the back. I found out the hard way that that's quite important. The box will actually fold much nicer if all of your tabs are facing in the same direction. It's not fighting against itself. So, pull off the sticky strip. Okay, same thing. Fold these in so they're flat. Put this in, not too far to the back. Okay, so hardest part is that the sticky strip sticks to me. Okay, so this one will go on, let go. Now I can let go of this side and have it going on. Now you see that we have our two panels. And at this stage, I can fold it in one. Oops. I guess that one didn't want to stick properly. Imagine. Try this again. That piece is now stuck. That piece is now stuck. Oops. My real set. There. Okay. Now that they're stuck on, okay, get those stuck on, okay, fold it in that direction, then fold it in the opposite direction. I like to go back and forth a few times to make sure that I've got complete fluidity of motion, okay, and that is all it takes to create your card in a box. At this stage, the rest of it is just decorating it. Okay? One of the things that I like to do is I create these balloons, and I actually use a circle or an oval punch. I use the little bit of the feet from the owl punch to give myself the spot on a balloon where it's tied up, and I have this on a really thin sheet of window sheet, the window sheets that we advertise. That way, when these are in my card in a box, when my box opens up, these float freely, and they actually look like these balloons are floating in the air. Okay. I also have done the same thing with my candles. I've got candles, and I've got the wing from the bird as my flame, It's kind of attached with on a piece of window sheet. The nice thing about using the window sheets as extensions to hold things up high is that they don't crimp. If you use a piece of cardstock as an extending pole, if that cardstock gets folded at any point or gets a bend in it, it's pretty much going to bend for good. But the window sheets are nice and rigid, and yet they give that air of being floating in the air. The other thing I want to point out to you, you'll notice that my card in a box, every time I add an element, I make sure I can close my box and nothing sticks out beyond the edges. When you fold it in the opposite direction, you'll see that I have stuff sticking out on both sides. That's okay, because it's going to go into the envelope like this, okay? That's the one thing you need to really be conscious of when you're doing your card in a box. Making sure at all stages, every time I add an element, I check and see, and you'll see that when my box is open, I have an element that sticks out on this side. I have elements that stick out on this side. So it's okay to have elements that stick out, just so long as you're aware that when your box is closed, nothing's sticking out. They can in one direction, it's not in the other direction. Okay, so that's something to be very aware of. Every time you add an element, say, okay, I don't stick out, so I can close this. Whereas if I tried in this direction, I've got things that stick out. You're only allowed to stick out in one direction if you want it to fit inside your standard envelope. Of course, we have the envelope punch board, and you can create your own custom size envelope. But you put all your various elements on, you can attach them to your front panel, to either of your bridges. You can have them attached to the back of the bridge, the front of the bridge, the back panel, wherever you'd like. Knock yourself out, have a good time, and create a wonderful, wonderful gift for somebody. I'll tell you, when somebody opens up your box card, they are very impressed. Thank you so much for joining me for another Stamp with Cynthia video. If you need any Stampin' Up! Supplies and you live anywhere at all in Canada, I would be happy to help you with that. In the meantime, have a lovely day. God bless you.